This is Derrick Broze. This is Derrick Broze of the Conscious Resistance. I'm here in Standing Rock.
That man is wanted in 5 different countries: Chile, Argentina, Brazil.
We've been fighting a long time. We've all lost so very much. So many loved ones gone.
Don't you fucking tease that horse!
You are not alone. There are pockets of resistance all around the planet. We are at the brink. Above all, stay alive. You have no idea how important you are. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and this is episode 143 of the Conscious Resistance Live. Please let me know, go ahead and let me know if you can hear me coming through all right. I'm trying a new setup for some of my behind the scenes stuff, so I just want to make sure you can hear me okay. And then we will proceed with our show focused on 3 main stories and bringing you solutions, of course, talking about how you can actually try to empower and improve your life and activate yourself so that you're not just a passive being watching the world get more and more crazy in front of you, watching people, government, these corporate institutions become more and more corrupt and openly corrupt as they advance their agenda, their very anti-human agenda towards control, manipulation, lies, pretty much everything the opposite of what you would think of as good and conscious and empowering. That is their agenda. And what is our agenda? What is my agenda? Well, here at the Conscious Resistance Live, my weekly podcast where we talk about news from a solutions-focused perspective, our agenda is to try to get people to continue their awakening journey, to continue to expand and activate their minds and question the world around them and question the characters put in front of them as we each claw our way and fight our way and struggle and experience joy on our way towards real liberty in our lifetime. That's what the conscious resistance is about. And even more specifically, I often say the conscious resistance is the recognition, the understanding, the realization that the struggle for a more free and ethical and just world will not come from confronting the physical institutions of power alone, like corporations and governments, but it must come with that paired with the struggle against the internal tyrant, what I call our doubts, fears, insecurities, and limiting beliefs, which can often hold us back and prevent us from being the best versions of ourselves. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel frankly like we need the best versions of all of ourselves right now. So that's what the conscious resistance is about, trying to bring you hard-hitting, fact-based, investigative journalism, exploring the spiritual journey, exploring liberty and consciousness, and doing it all from a solutions-based perspective, not a hopium, trust politicians, not a we're going to meditate and pray our way out of this alone. Those are helpful tools, but we also need action. No, none of those things, not a stick your head in the sand and not a let's focus on the problems agenda. It is very much a solutions-oriented agenda. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. My name is Derrick Broze. I very much appreciate you guys. So before we get into our 3 main stories, if you guys can see on the description of wherever you're watching, you will see that we have our focus tonight is 3 main stories. First, it's going to be Israel and Israelis have infiltrated the American media, not just the American media, but really we can look to media around the world. We're going to touch on that. We're going to talk about Elon Musk and the recreation of the Total Information Awareness Program, which is an article that I'm working on right now. And then another story about Dr. Scott Atlas speaking at Standford about COVID lies. And there's a few other topics that I could get into. I've got some new articles coming out. The one I just mentioned, the Elon Musk related one. Another one I'm working on is about Joe Biden and the forgotten human trafficking scandal, which some of you may know what I'm referring to, but it's a story that I think deserves more attention from the Biden administration and accusations of human trafficking under his watch. So that'll be coming in a couple of weeks. And then also I recently watched this documentary. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called Money Electric. And I think it's an HBO documentary. So people have feelings and thoughts about HBO. I thought it was an interesting documentary, ultimately somewhat fair. And it was specifically about Bitcoin and about cryptocurrency and about the search for who is Satoshi Nakamoto. And it's a really good documentary, I would say, for multiple reasons. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it does a good job of cataloging and following the cryptocurrency movement and industry since 2012 and really the beginning, but really as the movement grew, I was there since 2012, and they show, and I was glad to see they do acknowledge that there are some people who are more freedom minded, who don't want government involved in the concept of a crypto private cryptocurrency, and then others who came in and kind of co-opted the space. Of course, they don't talk about the quote unquote conspiracy reality of different people associated with the Bilderberg group who are connected to the company Blockstream and how they have infiltrated the Bitcoin community. But nevertheless, it was a good documentary, and I plan to write an article about it called Peter Todd, Blockstream, and the Bilderberg Group. And as part of that article, next week, I'll be interviewing Amir Taki, who some of you may know for his work on the Dark Wallet, on currently on a project called DarkFi, as well as being one of the really early developers and coders for Bitcoin. He is a true, I'd say, not conspiracy, as true crypto anarchist, like coder who's trying to use technology for the positive to protect the people. And I'm going to get to connect with him in a few weeks in Mexico at the Monerotopia, which I'll tell you about in just a minute. But I'm going to be interviewing him this week because he was interviewed in that documentary, Money Electric. Again, you can see it out there. Don't pay HBO for it. Go stream it somewhere for free. Download it for free. Pirate it. And that's what I did. And see what you think about it, because I will be interviewing Amir next week to, share. Actually, it might be this week. I think it is this week, this Friday. I'll be interviewing him, and that'll come out next week. And there'll be an article about that as well. So anyways, let's go ahead and move forward. I do have one quick video I want to play you guys. We're going to talk about a couple of events that I'm going to be speaking at. I have 3 more events that I'm participating in. 2 of them are in person. 1 is virtual. We're going to start with the virtual one real quick before we get into our news. Just in case those of you out there ever want to connect with me in person, this is why I share this. The main place to find this is theconsciousresistance.com/tour. You can always find my upcoming talks and things. And as much as I love doing videos, I love way more connecting with you guys in person. If you listened last week, I shared some of my experience going to the UK, Wales, London, Bath, and then going to Denmark and doing talks there. And it's always just a pleasure to connect with people in person. So I'm going to be participating in a virtual event with my partner, Miriam Gomez, next month, the 14th and the 15th, I believe. But you'll find out in this quick clip. So let me just go to that right quick.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, guys.
We are very excited to announce that we are going to be a part of Sacred Geometry, Biological Architecture, and Well-Being,
The 3rd International Congress, which is being organized by our friends Lydia and Arturo of Geophilia. You guys may have seen them speak at our events, the Greater Reset, now the People's Reset. They do lots of wonderful work around the world. We're actually collaborating with them for our community, and now they're going to be hosting this online Congress 2 days next month, November 16th and 17th, when you can learn about all kinds of things like
sacred geometry, biohacking. You can learn about bioarchitecture, and we're going to be talking about community, conscious communities, and building communities.
They're going to be talking about physics and everything from like ancient temples, all kinds of cool stuff. So as Miriam said, we're going to be speaking there. It's going to be about a 45-minute presentation. There's going to be lots of other great speakers.
There's going to be an awesome Q&A session to every one of the talks that are going to be happening as well. And
there's just so much to learn about it. I encourage you guys to check it out at the link. We'll put that in the appropriate place. And we actually have a coupon code.
If you use Agora, you will get 55% off the final price. So be sure to check out the description below, use that code, and share it with everybody. There's a lot more to this event, and we'll share that in the description.
55% off. That's pretty good.
Pretty awesome.
So that's Agora, Agora, when you check out at the link below. And look forward to seeing you guys there. Hope you check it out, because Geophilia, they're doing some really cutting edge work. And it is things that we believe that if more people incorporated into their lives, we'd probably all be living healthier, happier, more free lives. So I encourage you to check it out, guys.
Yeah, peace.
All right. So that is, as I said, this upcoming event. Let me go ahead and add this on there. You can see the website. It's called the 3rd International Congress. Our friends who are organizing it with Geophilia, they do like sacred geometry based architecture. 3rd International Congress, sacred geometry, conscious architecture, and well-being, online the 16th and the 17th. I'm going to post the link real quick in the comments in case anybody wants to check it out. It's also been posted on my social media this last week. Geophilia.org is their main website, in case you can't find it, but I did just post it. So I encourage you to check that out if you want to learn about all kinds of, I don't even claim to fully understand most of the things there. That's why it's exciting to me. But I do know that there is something to be said for creating a space, building a home and a community, using the flow, the flow of the movement through the house, as well as energetic things. And of course, they also talk about reducing EMF and a lot of other amazing things. So that's their work, but there's going to be so many other people, including myself and Miriam, tuned in. Again, 55% off if you do the whole coupon thing, Agora. And that's next month. Now, real quick, just a couple other things. First of all, our website is theconsciousresistance.com. If you guys are not familiar, please do bookmark the website. Check us a couple times a week because I do post on social media. But as you guys know, social media is fickle. It can be taken down. And if you want to make sure you always get my content in video, audio versions, whatever you prefer, and in downloadable versions, you want to go to theconsciousresistance.com. And as I said, you go to theconsciousresistance.com/tour. And you can see my face there, and you can see some upcoming talks and events that we have going on. I just want to shout these out real quick before we get into the news. I'm going to be speaking in just a couple weeks, November 1st to 3rd, in Sedona, Arizona, at the Liberty on the Rocks Volunteerism Conference. There's going to be people like Larkin Rose, James Corbett speaking virtually. Etienne de la Boetie Squared is going to be speaking. David Friedman. Some other people I don't fully know. Oh, Ryan Christian's going to be there hanging out in person. He's also going to be doing like a live stream of the talks. And this one's cool because it's Friday. You got music. And Saturday, talks from Larkin, myself, many other people, and a dinner. And then Sunday, we're going to go hike in the Red Rocks of Sedona. Should be really awesome. The website is on theconsciousresistance.com/tour. You'll see it listed there, Liberty on the Rocks Volunteerism Conference. I also have a video interview with the founder if you want to go to theconsciousresistance.com and learn more. Then coming up next month, November 14th to the 17th, I'm in Mexico City for my final talk of 2024 at Monerotopia. This is for the real private crypto community, the people who actually care about privacy. And there's going to be different people there, including coders who I'm not too familiar with that you might know, but Amir Taki, who I mentioned, Rose O'Leary, who just spoke at the People's Reset. I'm speaking, my friend Sterling Lujan, John Bush, Aaron Day, Seth for Privacy is going to be there. And there's going to be some other people. So I encourage you to check it out. You can find out about monerotopia.com. And I'm pretty sure you get like a discount if you use my name. That is also on the website. You use Derrick Broze Broze 24, you get 10% off. So all that can be found at theconsciousresistance.com/tour. Just wanted to shout that out in case anybody wants to hang out in person for the rest of this year. If not, I hope to see you guys in Mexico for the People's Reset. Now let's go ahead and jump into the news. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. First story is all about Israel. Now, this is kind of picking up on what I was ranting and raving about last week, how no matter who you vote for, Israel is winning the election. And that is because Donald Trump, through the Adelsons, now Miriam Adelson, previously her husband, now deceased, Sheldon Adelson, and other Zionist funding Kamala Harris, and the fact that both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are supported by Bilderberg steering committee members via Peter Thiel and Alex Karp and Eric Schmidt for both sides, Harris and Trump, and that there really is no way around that. I mean, you can sit there and argue which piece of shit is a better piece of shit, and you can argue which is lesser of evil, but at the end of the day, we know what's going to happen. We understand who is still going to be running the show. That doesn't mean all hope is lost, as the title of tonight's show, which is Technocrats and Zionists are in control, but all is not lost, because we are going to be talking about all of that tonight. And this first one is focused on Israel. So this is a brand new article coming from Mint Press News from Alan McLeod, who is a great journalist who I'm actually setting up an interview with very soon. So hopefully we'll have that on here and he can break down not only this article, but he did another really great article recently about Peter Thiel. He's just killing it lately. So I want to get into his work with you guys soon. This one is called Revealed: The Israeli Spies Writing America's News, October 16th, 2024. So just came out in the last couple of days. Let's go ahead and read a little bit of it. It's saying, well, let's get into just the meat of it. Again, I encourage you to read it for yourself. But the main part here is that we have journalists. This one is Barak Ravid, a journalist who's been reporting on the Israeli bombing and everything that's going on for the last year. But what most people don't know is that he's also a former analyst with the Israeli spy agency Unit 8200. We're going to talk about Unit 8200, Unit 81, and the Taupiot program. This is what this section's focused on here. And as recently as last year, this Ravid was still a reservist in the Israeli Defense Forces group. But do you think people know that whenever they are reading this article from this person over at Axios, the article titled "1 Year After October 7th Attacks, Netanyahu is on a winning streak." So, oh wow, that's interesting. Let me read about this. Let me see. Oh wow, this is, it's painting a viewpoint about Netanyahu, makes him look like a pretty good guy. And then you don't realize, well, the person writing it is a quote unquote former analyst with Israeli spy unit and was a reservist in the IDF. I mean, that's a pretty freaking big deal, but that's where we're at. And most Americans have no idea. Unit 8200 is the largest and perhaps most controversial spying organization in Israel. It's been responsible for many high profile espionage and terror operations, including the recent pager attack that injured thousands of Lebanese civilians. And Ravid is far from the only Israeli ex-spook. And again, I put ex-spooks here. I think we should keep that in quotes because I don't know. I've heard people say this, and I think maybe it's a little silly. Who knows? But it is a question to consider. Are you ever really an ex FBI agent, an ex CIA agent? Is that bond literally so deep that you kind of always are serving in that role? And really, if you're out there looking at the world through the spook's eyes or a spy for the government's eyes, and you have friends who are still connected to that industry, obviously, if you think you see something that's just concerning or you want to report somebody, you know who to call in those agencies to get action taken. So I don't know if you really truly can say you are ever an X. Now, it doesn't mean your opinions and your values can't change, but yeah. So they go into some more examples here. And first Alan goes deeper into talking about who Ravid is as far as being in the Capitol Hill Press Corps. He won the White House Press Correspondence Award. I mean, overall, the person definitely seems like a freaking spook. They've got a number of scoops, breaking stories. One of the stories, it says most of these stories that out of that award that they won. Let me just back up a little bit where it said that he won the White House Press Correspondence Award. Says the judges were impressed by what they described as his quote deep, almost intimate levels of sourcing in the U.S. and abroad, and they picked out 6 articles as exemplary pieces of journalism. And most of these stories consisted of simply printing anonymous White House or Israel government sources, making them look good, and distancing Biden from the horrors of the Israel attack on Palestine. As such, there was functionally no difference between these and White House press releases. For example, one story the judges picked out was titled "Scoop: Biden tells Bibi 3-day fighting pause could help secure release of some hostages," and presented the 46th president of the United States as a dedicated humanitarian hell-bent on reducing suffering. Another described how, quote, frustrated Biden was becoming with Netanyahu and the Israeli government. So it just goes on with different examples how close of a relationship this person has with the Israeli agencies, as well as Biden. Apparently, Biden gave him the award directly to him and gave him a big hug. It says, like a brother. And it just goes on saying how he's made a name for himself by uncritically printing flattering information given to him by either the U.S. or Israeli government and passing it off as a scoop. I mean, that's pretty much the classic role of a mouthpiece for the establishment, right? And you just take press releases or things that the government's feeding you. And you might even think like, oh my God, I'm so amazing. I worked to this point, now have access to the White House, and never consider that maybe they're feeding you information that they want you to print and none of it is threatening them in any way. You just think like, oh wow, I've made it. I'm part of the Washington Post or Axios or whoever, and I'm getting breaking news fed to me from, a source in the White House. I did this because of my skills and everything. Could be true, could be another motive. So here's some examples of some of this quote unquote journalists headlines. Scoop: Biden tells Bibi he's not in it for a year of war in Gaza. Scoop: White House cancels meeting, scolds Netanyahu in protest over video. Biden running out of patience with Bibi as Gaza war hits 100 days. Biden-Bibi clash escalates as U.S. accused of undermining Israeli government. And basically, McLeod here is saying that this is a, quote, relentless whitewashing of the Biden administration, and that this has even drawn mockery from different people on the internet, just calling it out. But of course, this person is not the only one. He goes further here describing Unit 8200, which I'm going to tell you more about in just a moment. And then he does show how there are some other journalists like this one, Shakar Peled. She spent 3 years as an officer in 8200, leading a team of analysts in surveillance, intelligence, and cyber warfare. She also served as a technology analyst for the Israeli intelligence service Shin Bet. And in 2017, she was hired as a producer and writer for CNN and spent 3 years putting together segments for Fareed Zakaria and Christine Ampour's show. Google later hired her to become their senior media specialist. So works for the Israeli spy agency as a technology analyst in the Israeli intelligence service with Shin Bet. and then goes on to work for CNN and Google. You also talk about Tal Heinrich, who went to work for CNN after being a member of the 8200, spent 3 years at Unit 8200, and then went to field a news desk producer for CNN. And he provides more examples. Anat Schwartz, ex-Israeli Air Force intelligence officer with zero journalistic experience, hired by New York Times. And it goes on from there, and it just continues to describe it. And at the same time, also describing how Israel is censoring their own people and censoring stories about them. And so we touched on this. You guys, it shouldn't be a big surprise. I mean, especially, this has been my one thing. I really want to give credit to Ryan, of course, Christian over at The Last American Vagabond. I haven't dissected every single minutia, every single element of the October 7th attack and over the last year. James Corbett did some great documentaries, but generally speaking, I think anybody who really doesn't understand that there's no way in the world that the Israelis didn't see some level of an attack coming with all of the intelligence apparatus that they have, just like there's no way, it's nearly impossible to imagine that on 9/11, the Pentagon, one of the most protected airspaces in the world around DC, somehow was nearly penetrated because of, hijackers and with pocket knives and living in caves and things like that. These stories just don't make sense. And so I'm going to play you 2 quick clips, because one of the ways you hopefully have heard about this is through my documentary series, The Pyramid of Power. If you go to thepyramidofpower.net, check out season 3, which, by the way, I think it's hard to say which is my favorite, but this one is definitely an amazing one, between the foundations and the nonprofit industrial complex, the banking cartel and the future of money. And then episode 12, the crimes of the intelligence community, which actually is our longest one yet. I try to keep them all under 30 minutes, but chapter 12, crimes of the intelligence community, I talk about British, American, Russian, Israeli, and Chinese intelligence agencies. I just couldn't cram it in. I think it comes out to be 45 minutes or something like that. But there's a whole section about the Israeli intelligence networks, and I want to play a quick clip for you guys. 2 of them, actually. We're going to play 2 quick clips from the Pyramid of Power, because what I'm saying is that there's no way that the Israelis would not have known that this attack was coming, based on the vast intelligence network that they have, from spying on cell phones, internet traffic, spying on human beings, spy satellites, AI, of course, all these sorts of things. Like, there's no way, it's not reasonable to think and logical to think that they could, this attack could happen and they would just be totally, oh my God, we're shocked. We're completely surprised by this. There's no way we could have foresaw this happening. It's just not realistic. So I'm going to play you 2 quick clips from the Pyramid of Power, chapter 12, and then I'll be right back. In this chapter, we are going to take a look at the history of the international intelligence community. We will be looking into the history of the British, American, Russian, Israeli, and Chinese intelligence agencies. We will focus our attention on some of the most impactful and dangerous activities committed by these 5 agencies. As with all of our investigations, we are only scratching the surface, and we highly encourage all viewers to follow the links and suggested reading in our transcript. The simple fact is that these 5 nations and the intelligence agencies which have been trained by them have been involved in a number of high-profile crimes known to much of the public, as well as lesser-known crimes which are equally disturbing. Various actions taken by the modern intelligence community include overthrowing governments, funding drug trafficking and gun running, spreading propaganda through the corporate media, spying on their own domestic populations, as well as foreign populations, targeted assassinations, and even accusations of trafficking of children, which we will explore in an upcoming episode of this series. In our chapter on the corporate media, we reported that in 1975, the U.S. Senate organized the U.S. Senate Select Committee to study governmental operations, otherwise known as the Church Committee. Church and his team were tasked with investigating abuse by the Central Intelligence Agency, the National Security Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Internal Revenue Service. The Church Committee investigations are well known for revealing many illegal activities by the intelligence community, including the discovery of Operation Shamrock, in which the major telecommunications companies shared their traffic with the NSA from 1945 to the early 1970s. There was also a discussion about a poison dart program that could cause someone to have a heart attack. And of course, there were the infamous MKUltra documents, which revealed the CIA's efforts to manipulate and control the human mind. The Church Committee's final report, published in April 1976, also covered CIA ties with both foreign and domestic media.
We do have people who submit pieces two American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA?
While Unit 8200 is an important piece of the Israeli intelligence puzzle, two lesser-known programs also deserve attention. First, the Talpiot program is another so-called elite program under the Israeli Defense Forces, which has been hosted by Hebrew University since 1979. Talpiot has a couple meanings in Hebrew, but it is generally translated to mean stronghold or tall turrets. The program was initiated by Professor Felix Dothan and Professor Shaul Yatziv of the Hebrew University, with the idea of harnessing human creativity at a young age and training recruits with outstanding academic ability in the sciences and leadership potential. In a rare instance of mainstream media reporting on Talpiot, a 2007 Wall Street Journal article described Talpiot as, quote, the country's most selective institution. It accepts 50 students a year and trains them in physics, computers, and other sciences. Its mission is to create innovative, tech-savvy leaders capable of transforming Israel's military. Soldiers picked for Talpiot aren't expected to fight like ordinary soldiers. Instead, they are selected for a, quote, ultra-competitive, grueling, fast-paced program designed to give them the best educational and military training possible. Talpiot recruits are chosen for a decade and taught by, quote, some of the world's top minds in mathematics, physics, and computer science, as well as some of Israel's top strategic leaders from the Army, Navy, and Air Force. Just like with Unit 8200, graduates of Talpiot have developed a habit of forming tech companies. Once a graduate leaves Unit 8200 or Talpiot, they take what they learned for the IDF and apply it to the Israeli economy. Talpiot graduates hire each other and help each other find jobs once in the private sector, which has resulted in a rapidly growing tech industry in Israel. As a result of the startup culture produced by these elite intelligence units, Israel has more companies listed on the Nasdaq stock exchange than any country except the United States. A perfect example of this pattern can be seen in the life of Zohar Zisapel, who has been referred to as the father of Israel's tech sector. Mr. Zisapel is credited with starting 27 companies in the last 30 years. All right, so those were both clips from the Pyramid of Power documentary series. Again, you can find that at thepyramidofpower.net. That was chapter 12, The Crimes of the Intelligence Community. Everything in there is sourced there. I highly encourage you to check that out, read the transcripts, dissect it, learn more about Unit 8200. You learn more about the Talpiot program, Unit 81. And as I was saying there in that clip, and as Alan McLeod's article was saying before we cut to those videos, this is not just, a few Israelis who work for the IDF and worked intelligence and now work for CNN or Axios or something like that. It is that, and yes, they're in the media, but it's also what I was just describing, that these people are going into the intelligence sector, the tech sector in Israel, and then they're going and starting companies, international companies, not just companies based in Israel that do Israeli business only, but companies that do worldwide business. And Whitney Webb has reported on some of this with Carbine 911. They're one of the companies that is starting to replace some of the old traditional 911 emergency services systems and do it through you call through a cell phone and they can activate the camera and remotely see you. And there's some concerns about these Israeli spooks starting all these tech companies and what that's going to mean for Americans and for people all over the world as it relates to their privacy and their liberty in the long term. So highly encourage you to check out those articles. Everything that I'm covering will be listed at theconsciousresistance.com once we wrap up tonight. The post for tonight will go up shortly after, and then you can catch all the links, everything. The first article is coming from Mint Press News, and then, of course, thepyramidofpower.net. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be back for our second story talking about Elon Musk and the Total Information Awareness Program. We'll be right back.
Are you using your phone, or is it using you? Rise above mass surveillance and discover a phone that protects your privacy and communications.
Above Phone does everything your old phone does, without tracking you, while giving you complete control over your phone and apps. We are better than big tech. It works with any cell service. No forced logins. No advertising or tracking. Download apps privately. Control your phone and its apps with secure hardware. Introducing Above Suite. Protects your internet traffic. Private email on any device. Video call with friends privately. Encrypted chat, calls, and internet phone. Protect your searches and get results. Don't worry if you're new. Every phone includes a free 45-minute live call. You also get free email and chat support, free guides, and video courses. We can take back our technology. We're here to help with tools and education. You have the power.
Rise above with Above Phone.
AbovePhone.com.
All right, welcome back to the Conscious Resistance Live. That was the Above Phone, and I'll just remind you guys, you can go to our website, theconsciousresistance.com, and if you are interested in getting an Above Phone, a privacy-based phone that's not spying on you, that's not Google, that's not Apple, there's an ad there. You can click on that ad and get a discount, but I also want to just let you guys know right off the bat, I'm trying to pull it up real quick, the code you can use when you're making a purchase. And I do appreciate everybody who makes a purchase, because that helps me show my friends and people who I'm working with that people actually want privacy products. You can save up to $50 if you go to abovephone.com/dbros, as in Derrick Broze, and you can get that. So appreciate you guys for doing that. And I want to say, I think my nephew is watching. If this is him, Rage FN over on YouTube, it says, "Hello, Uncle Derrick. What's up?" If that is my nephew over there, I told him I was going to be live tonight at 7. I was showing him my streaming setup, and I told him, "Hey, if you're still up tomorrow night, tune in and I'll give you a shout out." And so shout out Easton. What's going on, brother? Thanks for being here. We're going to be talking about some stuff that hopefully, you want to listen to. It might be a little bit over your head in some areas, but I think you're smart enough. You're such an intelligent young guy. You're smart enough to know what I'm talking about. We were talking yesterday. Let's just pause on this for a moment before I get into this next article about Elon Musk. Actually, my nephew, who is here on the stream with us over on YouTube, him and I have talked about Elon Musk, and I'm going to share this story real quick, Easter, while I pull up the video we did. What is the Matrix? We were in the car one time driving, and Elon Musk came up, and I told him, I said, "Yeah, Elon Musk, some people like him. I'm kind of concerned about some of the things he's into." And he asked me like what I was talking about. And I mentioned, well, Neuralink, he's trying to put chips in people's brains, and they claim it's going to be for some good things, but and Easton said, you said something like, "Well, wouldn't that mean they'd be able to read your minds?" And I said, "That's exactly what I'm thinking, buddy. That's what a lot of us are worried about, that maybe we're giving them too much access to our brains and things like that." And so, yeah, just you're a brilliant young mind. And so I did this video. Let me show it real quick. When Easton was asking me questions, he was asking me recently about what is the Matrix. He heard about this from Andrew Tate, who personally I don't think is a great influence for a young dude like my little nephew here. So I said, look, let me give you my thoughts on that. You can find this video on the YouTube channel and on really wherever you're streaming on right now. It's called "What is the Matrix? A Message for my nephew." I put this out, a year ago. So this is June 30th of 2023. And I think whether or not you're my nephew, you might be interested in my answer to that question: what is the Matrix? So I say all that to say, Easton, if you do hang out, much of what I'm talking about is about the Matrix. It is about this false world around us that a lot of people, even people we know and love and care about, can't seem to see. Some of them can see it, but they don't know what to do about it. A lot of the people who follow my work and who are on my channel here are the kind of people who are looking for answers about the problems in the world. And I was just talking about the Israeli spy agencies and some of the other spy agencies that unfortunately they have infiltrated the media. So sometimes when you're watching the news, it might not even be a real news person who went to school. It might be somebody who was put there by government. So, to spread a certain message. Like I was talking to you last night about marketing, and I told you later, eventually we'll talk about propaganda, but I was talking to you about marketing and how the companies, they want to reach out to young kids like you. So they use bright colors and different things that they think the young mind is going to see. "Ooh, bright. I want to go check that out." And then when you're at the store, you'll bug mom and dad and say, "Hey, let me get that, mom. I saw a commercial about it. Or I saw a YouTube ad about it, or I watched a reel about it, or my favorite influencer." Even that's another way that is kind of unique to the current generations, and it's more predominant for you because you're growing up in it, there are influencers and people out there. They might do a video and show you, look at this cool latest mouse pad I have, or this latest toy or whatever. And they're actually being paid by those companies to share it with you. So that might not even be what they really feel. And this, you just got to think about these things as you get older, of like, some people are willing to do things for money. Some people don't care. They'll just say whatever if they get paid. And they don't care if they're just lying to you just to tell you a product that they might not even use, that they might not even care about, but somebody paid them to say it. So this is why it's always important to think for yourself and be critical. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump forward to the, excuse me, to our next story of the night. Thank you guys for being here. We've got 250 people tuned in from around, maybe more than that, on Twitter and elsewhere. But thank you to everybody who is here tonight and everybody who will be watching after. These next couple stories are about Elon Musk and about Elon Musk creating the Total Information Awareness Program. And for those who don't know about that, we're going to do a quick history lesson in just a couple of moments about total information awareness. Because for those who, like my nephew, were born after 9/11 or just weren't paying attention until recently, you might not remember that there were previous efforts to establish surveillance states, police states around the United States. And there was post 9/11, and it was something known as total information awareness. But we'll talk about that in just a moment. So this is an article from The Atlantic that I actually think did a pretty good job. It's always important to challenge yourself and read things that you think you're not going to agree with. Some of you might be like, oh, Derrick, The Atlantic, that's some progressive left-wing liberal magazine. I'm not going to read that. I hate them. They just, all they do is talk crap about Trump, and I love Trump. Well, I encourage you to think for yourself, to question everything and to challenge yourself. In fact, this was part of the homework of the Exit and Build Challenge that we've been doing. Last Friday, I encouraged everybody to read one piece of information or watch a podcast or a documentary or read an article that you believed was going to express an opinion that you would probably disagree with, and still go in and do it, and not do it with like, oh, just being angry and this person's so stupid they believe something different than me, but go in with an open mind and consider the opinion that's being presented to you. So if you have trouble with some of my sources, or you don't, they're not the perfect source according to you, all that matters is if they're facts. And even if they express them in a way you don't like, that's fine. That's part of being a mature adult. But this one is actually on point. Trump is Elon Musk's Trojan horse. The Tesla and ex-mogul has long dreamed of redesigning the world in his own authoritarian image. Electing Trump would make that a reality. And they got this sort of smashed together picture of Trump and Musk together. And of course, if you guys have been following my work, I do not support Trump. I do not support Musk. I also don't support Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or any of these people, because they're all playing for the same team. That's the Zionists and the Bilderberg group. And I'm not going to play those kind of games, because there are more effective ways for us to change the world around us, rather than just believing that voting is going to fix everything. If you want to vote in this sham of an election, it's a selection, not an election, then you do so. But don't pretend like it's the most important thing ever, because that's what they said 4 years ago, and 4 years ago before that, and 4 years ago before that. And that's part of the propaganda, to make you think that this is the most important thing that matters. And both sides get to try to scare you and say, if Donald Trump doesn't win, we're going to go full on communism and the world's going to end. And then the other side says, if Kamala wins, just back and forth. And that's what Elon Musk is doing. He's been campaigning for Trump and saying, I really do see this in apocalyptic terms. It's either Trump or, we're going to go into darkness and this and that. It's garbage. Don't buy into this. They're trying to scare you into action to continue playing the game, because they only have power over you if you keep playing the game and you keep believing in their fake matrix that's all around us. But I want to zero in on this one part of this article. It says, Musk's public affection for Trump begins almost certainly with his savvy understanding of economic interests. Now, what I really want to focus on is his companies. Now, this isn't just some left-wing liberal magazine attacking Elon Musk because he's a billionaire. These are facts. Like so many other billionaire exponents of libertarianism, we'll talk about that in a second, he has turned the government into a spectacular profit center. His company SpaceX relies on contracts with three-letter agencies and the Pentagon. It has subsumed some of NASA's core functions. Tesla thrives on government tax credits for electric vehicles and subsidies for its network of charging stations. Let's say that again. Tesla thrives on government tax credits for electric vehicles and subsidies for its network of charging stations. By Politico's tabulation, both of these companies, SpaceX and Tesla, have won $15 billion in federal contracts, but that's just his business plan in beta form. According to the Wall Street Journal, SpaceX is designing a slew of new products with national security customers in mind. So the main focus there for those who understand libertarianism, conservatism, just generally this idea that we shouldn't be just surviving off of government wealth, and especially those of you who believe that we should be trying to shrink the government, as I do, if not work towards eliminating it altogether, then the idea that somebody like Elon Musk is out here to really save things, save the day, is just ridiculous. And those of you who buy into that, you're not really paying attention to what he's actually doing. You're not paying attention to how he's funded, where his money comes from. He is he's dependent on what we call corporate welfare, and is dependent on government contracts and government subsidies. And also, for those of you who understand the kind of climate change narrative, the push towards electric vehicles, which are fine if they're voluntary, but they shouldn't be government subsidized. That is part of what Elon Musk is involved in with the Teslas and with the tax credits. So James Corbett put out another great article about Peter Thiel just a couple of days ago. We'll go over that in just a moment. But he was really hammering down this point that no matter which angle you look at it, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, they're not libertarians. And no, Zuckerberg's not a libertarian either. Libertarian is somebody who understands the principles of self-ownership, of non-aggression, and of that all relationships should be voluntary and consensual. And from there, you believe in private property, springing out of your self-ownership and being able to mix your labor with the earth and create things. It has nothing to do with being on government welfare and subsidizing your business through statism, through corporate state business. That is the exact opposite of it. So Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and the other Zuckerbergs and all these technocrats, they are not libertarian in any way. I just want to hammer that point. I know some of you might not care, because if you're not libertarian, maybe you don't care, but it's annoying to see these kind of things. I don't think it's done on accident either. They absolutely want people to not understand what libertarianism is, to think that it's you love corporations, and you just want billionaires to be able to run the planet. That's not libertarianism at all, and that's not what it would turn into. It's just that these people are just more opportunists. They're controlled opportunists, and they don't really care about the people at all. So now I want to zero in on another section here. Let me see if I can find it. Starshield. Here we go. With his government contracts and his insider influence, Musk will become further ensconced in the national security state. This is if Trump wins. He already has a $1.8 billion classified contract, likely with the National Reconnaissance Office, and through a division of SpaceX called Starshield, he supplies communications networks for the military. At a moment when the government is confronting crucial decisions about the future of AI and the commercialization of space, Elon Musk's ideals will likely hold sway under Trump. So let's take that for a moment. A $1.8 billion classified contract between Elon Musk's companies and likely the National Reconnaissance Office, which is responsible for like spy satellites and a whole lot more that we probably have no idea. And then SpaceX Starshield is supplying communications networks for the military. So Elon Musk's companies are not only benefiting from corporate welfare, benefiting from government subsidies and all these kinds of things, but ultimately his entire business model is dependent on these contracts. And he's not just selling them cupcakes and making billions of dollars. He is using his Starlink and other technology, selling them the spy network, the complete control surrounding the planet, with spy satellites and constant 24-hour surveillance. I mean, obviously, we're already pretty far along that path, but this is going to become a reality because of Elon Musk and his work, his technology. Now, here's another article from Bloomberg from September 27th, where I found this. Elon Musk wins U.S. Space Force contract for Starshield. This is where they first talk about it. Elon Musk has received his first contract from U.S. Space Force to provide customized satellite communications for the military under the new Starshield program. Space Exploration Technologies Corps is competing with 15 companies for $900 million in working orders through 2028 under Space Force's new Proliferated Low Earth Orbit Contracts program, which is tapping into communication of service of satellites orbiting 100 miles to 1,000 miles above Earth. The Starshield service will be provided over SpaceX's existing constellation of Starlink communications satellites. So working directly with the government, a military industry, if you know who Lockheed Martin is and Raytheon and all these different companies that profit off war, Elon Musk's companies are right there with them. So you got Space Force, And here's another one from the Wall Street Journal, February 2024. Elon Musk's SpaceX forges tighter links with U.S. spy and military agencies. The company has grown from a for-hire rocket launcher into a major national security contractor. SpaceX is deepening its ties, winning at least one major classified contract and expanding a secretive company satellite program called Starshield. His company has entered into a $1.8 billion classified contract with the U.S. government in 2021, according to company documents viewed by the Wall Street Journal. SpaceX said in the documents that funds from the contract were expected to become an important part of the revenue mix in the coming years. It didn't disclose the name of the government customer. So it goes on and so think about that. They've got secret contracts with the government for nearly $2 billion over with, we don't know what, but most likely related to satellite programs. We got Starshield with their supplying the communications network for the military using Starlink. This guy is helping them build the surveillance state, the police state, the technocracy, the technocratic state that I've been warning about since at least 2019. Now, here's another aspect of this real quick. At Tesla, Musk assigned himself the title of Techno King. That moniker, which sits on the line between jokiness and monomania, captures the danger. So I want to zero in on that for a moment because, of course, since this article is they're not quote unquote conspiracy theorists, so they don't know their research. He calls himself Techno King, and when you click on that, it goes to his page on the Tesla company website. Let's just open that real quick so you don't have to take my word for it. And in his bio, this is an archived version from Tesla corporate governance. Elon Musk is the Techno King of Tesla. That's his words. I'm sure he's the one who said, hey, I want to put it there. It'll be funny. It'll be silly. Techno King there. Well, let's go over to theconsciousresistance.com/how-to, which is where you can download or listen to my 2022 second edition of my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State. We're going to go ahead and just open up the PDF real quick here. And we're going to search Technate. All right. Well, actually, let me search King. That's what I want to find. No. Let me search Technocrat King. That might be actually what I'm looking for. What I'm trying to show you guys here is that Elon Musk is literally using the language of the original technocrats, where they said they were going to rule over here we go, Technate. This is what the original technocrats talked about from 1938, Technocracy Incorporated. It said, only by abandoning the interfering price control and substituting a scientific method of production and distribution can abundance be achieved. Technocracy will distribute by means of a certificate of distribution available to every citizen from birth to death. The Technate will encompass the entire American continent from Panama to the North Pole because the natural resources. It goes on. And so they believe that that technocracy would be ruled by this sort of governing body called the Technate, and that would be run by the Technocrat King. I mean, that is in their own words. That is not Derrick Broze. And so they called it the Technocrat King. And in what is over on Elon Musk's Tesla page, he calls himself the Techno King. Okay, maybe he doesn't know anything about that. Well, that would be potential if you didn't know who his grandfather, Joshua Hadelman, was and his connection to the technocracy movement as well. Now, I mentioned we were going to talk about total information awareness real quick as we're talking about Elon Musk and we're talking about the Peter Thiels. Total information awareness was a program that was launched in the post 9/11 world in 2003, which was focused on basically monitoring all life. The concept of predictive policing, which we've heard about from the movie Minority Report. TIA, total information awareness, was meant to correlate detailed information about people in order to anticipate and prevent terrorist incidents before execution. Admiral John Poindexter called it the Manhattan Project for Counterterrorism. And according to Senator Ron Wyden, it was the biggest surveillance program in the history of the U.S. Congress defunded the Information Awareness Office in late 2003 after media reports criticized government for establishing total information awareness over all citizens. And it became a big deal. But this was, it was talking about doing some of these same things, using satellites, predictive policing, early versions of facial recognition technology. So much of what we see now, which has unfortunately become reality, even though they ended the program, a lot of these things have continued. But my point is, what Elon Musk is talking about with his satellites and maybe potentially with this billion-dollar contract is a version of total information awareness where they can see and hear and do everything you're doing using satellites. Now I'm going to show you real quick. James Corbett, as I mentioned, wrote this free editorial called The Strange Story of Peter Thiel. It's a part 1, so you can find it at thecorbettreport.com or go to his Substack. And there's just one point I want to make about this. For one, James also emphasizes that Peter Thiel is not a libertarian, despite him calling himself libertarian, and the media loving calling him a libertarian. They go out of his way to try to call him libertarian, even though it's pretty obvious he's not. So here's James talking about this. Peter Thiel and Alex Karp, both who are steering committee members of the Bilderberg Group, they landed a meeting with John Poindexter, Admiral John Poindexter, who I just mentioned, and they were helping him with the Information Awareness Program. And look at this. This is the original logo for the Information Awareness Office. Literally an all-seeing eye pyramid looking over the entire planet. That is not a joke. That was literally what they made their logo when this thing came up. And of course, you can see it was under DARPA, Information Awareness Office, Total Information Awareness. People beat that back. They pushed back against it. Of course, as James points out right here, and as you can find other articles, I've touched on this, the MIT Technology Review Total Information Awareness Project lives on. This is from 2006, and them saying technology behind the Pentagon's controversial data mining project has been acquired by the NSA and is probably in use. So this was 7-8 years before Snowden came around, and they're already saying, yeah, the program's supposed to be dead, but it's still living on. So it's not like Elon Musk is the first one to try to keep total information awareness alive, and much of it already is happening. But my point is, he is definitely a part of the problem with that. And then also, I would point to the work of Jason Burmis. And if you've seen my previous interviews with him, we've talked about the NASA Blackjack program, which is, let me see if I can just pull that up. It's also a satellite program. And as we can see, that Starlink and SpaceX are starting to replace NASA in many different ways. And I think, as Jason has pointed out, that it's like Elon Musk is taking that role. And look, this is the perfect artist concept image here of what they see. This is a picture, for those who are watching, of literally satellites just surrounding the planet and like a grid. Doesn't that look like a prison? And that is part of a NASA program. It's a part of a NASA plan they've discussed. But it seems like Elon Musk's Starlink and all of his various ventures, SpaceX, Tesla, which are completely dependent on government subsidies and government money and your tax dollars, that they are helping us. They are not helping us, but they're helping the government and the predator class construct the technocratic state, a grid, a full-time surveillance grid around the planet where all human life will be tracked and traced, and it will be very difficult to exist outside of that. Of course, existing outside of that is the key. That is why I've been doing the Exit and Build Challenge for the last 5 weeks. We're going to talk more about that soon. I hope you guys will stick around if you want to hear the solutions. But it's important to really poke holes in these false narratives that are being paraded around, as so many people are embracing Elon and dark MAGA now, and just wanting to believe that, quote unquote, we, the freedom movement, the health movement, the truth movement, the conspiracy movement, whatever you want to say, are winning with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Tulsi Gabbard. Oh my God, we're finally going to do it. It's all bullshit, my friends. It is all a lie. That doesn't mean that there aren't some good people in those areas thinking that they're doing good, but those people who I just mentioned are definitely playing a role. I think there's not a doubt in my mind. And if they're not playing a role, then they really are megalomaniacs who believe their own garbage, and still that makes them a danger to humanity, maybe even more of a danger, because they actually believe that they are here to do good, and that means they're going to make sure that nobody, whoever stands in their way, will succeed, and that they will be able to march forward. Now, that doesn't mean that Kamala is any better or anything like that. But you still have to understand that if you're stuck in that, oh, Derrick, this, you pro Kamala, this and that, somebody commented the other day, you're still stuck in that trap that they want you, that false binary that myself and the Independent Media Alliance have been exploring, that David Icke and I recently explored in an interview that hopefully you watched. That's the false binary, and there's so many of them. These are what I call the layers of deception. You know, you start waking up and you know there's corruption, but you're still kind of trapped in going back and forth between, well, it must be this person or it must be that person. Oh, and now here comes a new hero to tell me that everything's okay again. I can put my faith back into the system. But what really scared the crap out of these people more than anything, at least in my view, is people who are saying, you know what, we're not going to buy these games anymore. During COVID, people who were looking for alternative solutions and who are looking for better ways out of this crazy insanity we're dealing with, they weren't looking for, government answers. But then, of course, all of a sudden it's election time, and so many people who who believed that government wasn't the answer. And they could see that. They could see during COVID, governments are not to be trusted. And they were looking for alternative solutions. They were looking for exit and build. They were looking for the Freedom Cell network. A lot of those people all of a sudden turned back around and they started believing, oh, it's election time. Of course, it's time to go vote again. Yeah, governments are corrupt. Yeah, the Israelis control things. Yeah, we've had, we've had presidential assassinations, real assassinations, not fake assassinations. We've had all kinds of things, and we know the government's lying. We know they're doing total information awareness, but I'm going to go vote, and somehow that's going to fix things. Guys, there are much better ways for us to organize our lives. There's much better ways for us to live. There's much healthier and effective ways for us to try to actually attain freedom. I want to invite you guys to learn more about that. But for now, let's take a quick break, and hopefully we've got some new information in your mind, because it's time for more and more people to recognize that Elon Musk's not a hero. Donald Trump's not a hero. I wish it was that easy, guys. I wish it was just a matter of us trusting some billionaires and they were going to come in and save the day like Tony Stark, and everything was going to be good. I'm sorry. I don't think I think that's kind of like a childish way of looking at things. I don't think that's really going to happen. But if you have bought that, you've been watching too much Marvel and the programming is working pretty good. I mean, I like Marvel. I like watching a good Marvel movie, but the programming, it's just that. It's just programming, my friends. It's not real. It's not real. I hate to say it, burst your bubble, but that's not real. And the reality is that we got to take care of our own lives. So we'll be right back, guys. Stay tuned. So I've recently partnered with my friend Sean Hawkins of the company Cultivated Mind. He focuses on organic mushroom extracts, which are designed to help you physically, mentally, and maybe even more than that. I've just been testing them out recently. You may have seen my interview with Sean discussing this. We went over some of the specific benefits of the various types of mushrooms that Sean uses. I think it's a really exciting product to be a part of, because not only are they organic, they're non-GMO, but if you know anything about mushrooms, as more and more of us have been learning about the benefits of mushrooms, not just psychedelic mushrooms, but all types of mushrooms, then you understand that they are a great boon to your health. So Sean recently hooked me up, and I've been trying the Brain Squared, which is for gut pea flower extract, ashwagandha. I also recently picked up the Radiant Energy, which is for pre and post workout. So I go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, and now starting to take these before and after. These feature cordyceps, reishi, and chaga. And finally, he's got Immune Renew, which is obviously for immunity. This one features chaga, turkey tail, reishi, maitake, shiitake, and extract of nattokinase. I encourage you to go visit the website. It is cultivated-mind.com. And of course, we have a special deal and a discount for those of you who want to purchase them through my link at cultivated-mind.com/cm/broze, BROZE. You can check out the link on the screen right now, or wherever you're watching. Check out the link below the video. Check out the link below. Yeah, if you want to find out more about those mushrooms, go to theconsciousresistance.com. Check out our ad at the top. Before we go to our final story, which is about Dr. Scott Atlas speaking at Stanford University, I just want to make it clear, guys, in case other people aren't getting it. I got this comment, and I want to say thank you for the comment. I always appreciate the comments. Thanks, Derrick. As always, yeah, we still have to vote for him, but maybe one day we will not have to choose between one shit sandwich or another. No. You don't have to vote for him. That's my whole point. You don't have to vote for him. My whole point is you don't have to vote for Donald Trump. You don't have to vote for Kamala Harris. That's exactly the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying you can actually choose to be a free person. You can choose to take control of your life by practicing the exit and build strategy, rather than sitting around and waiting for presidents or anybody else to come save you, because guess what? They're not going to save you. You could choose to get off big tech. You could choose to start growing your own food. You could choose to learn about permaculture. I mean, this is literally what we've been doing. I guess this is a perfect time to go into it since it's getting brought up. This is literally why we've been doing the 45-day exit and build challenge. I started the exit and build challenge literally to be timed so that it will end the Friday before the US election on November 5th. So the idea is that every week we talk about a new area of our life. We started with food. Then we talked about money. We talked about technology. We talked about land. This past week, we talked about knowledge and education. This coming week, we're going to talk about mindset. And the final week, we'll be taking a holistic approach and talking about how to apply all these ideas. And the idea is that as I share about the exit and build strategy, which is essentially take your money, time, energy, and support away from systems that don't align with your values and which will lead to slavery, not liberty, not privacy in the long term. And they will definitely not be strategies that helped my younger nephew who was tuned in earlier, selling out the future generations, just doing the same stupid thing over and over and banging your head against the wall by voting. And oops, somehow the politicians are going to fix things this time. They're not going to sell me out. That's not a real answer, my friend. That's just doing the same insane thing over and over. The solutions is to stop playing their game altogether, to take our power away from it. This is what I call exit and build. And so the exit and build challenge, you can find it at theconsciousresistance.com. We are doing it every Friday at 11 a.m. US Central. And let me pull that up real quick. Last week, as I mentioned, was education and knowledge. And basically every week I discuss, okay, what is the problem in this area that we're trying to get away from? When it comes to education and knowledge, there's there's propaganda, there's bad sources of information, there's actual disinformation. What are the solution? Better information, alternative education online, homeschooling, unschooling, world schooling. And then I give you some homework. Like I mentioned earlier, consume a piece of content that you know you're going to disagree with. Visit EDX, learn more about the Trivium. This is just about education and knowledge. You can go back and look at the other ones about food, where I said go out and take a permaculture course, or visit a farmer's market and learn and connect to the farmers and people growing the food or tending to the animals near you. Go volunteer at a community garden. Actually putting the time and energy in, because I know that so many people want to believe all you have to do is vote and then that's going to fix everything. But real freedom takes effort. Real freedom takes time, and it's not going to be handed to you by a freaking known psychotic liar. And you can guess who I'm talking about. Oh, guess what? I'm talking about both sides. Known psychotic liars and criminals who associate with other criminals, they're not going to come save the day. As I literally just went through, and I've gone through dozens of reports over the last couple of years, exposing Elon Musk for who he really is, exposing Peter Thiel who he is. We have an entire section of our website called The Trump Deception. And no, it's not because we have Trump derangement syndrome. It's because we stick to the facts, and we know that Trump is not here to save people. And so you don't have to vote for him. You don't have to play the game. There's a million other ways you can spend your time. And yes, if you choose, you can still say, fine, Derrick, but I'm going to go press the button and get my little I voted sticker. Go ahead and do it if you think it's worth it, but at least put your time and energy into the exit and build strategy, and also at least contend with the fact that trying to use government to force your way on other people is a form of violence. And what do I mean by that? It means that whether or not you think you're doing it for the good of humanity, if you're going to go say, I want to vote to force the other couple hundred Americans who are going to think different than me to go along with my way, then you're just as bad as the other side. Government is an uncivilized way to organize human affairs. And I know some of you still aren't ready to wrestle with that. You still can't contend with that. That doesn't mean we need to know exactly what comes next. It means we need to end the modern day slavery. We need to end statism. And the way we do that, at least from my view, is by action and by leading by example. So we break away from their systems. We spend our time and energy building new models and new systems, not continuing to do the same damn things over and over that we know are not going to lead to real liberty and privacy. All right. So I'm going to play you a quick clip now from a good inspiration of mine, John Trudell, Native American activist who passed away in 2015. Since this topic got brought up, before we get to our final story and then we play some music to wrap things up, I want you to listen to this 4-minute clip from Native American activist John Trudell, Thanksgiving Day speech in 1980, and listen to what he's saying about voting back then. I encourage you guys to really tune into this. This is one of my biggest inspirations.
We're faced with a very serious situation in this generation. There are insane people who wish to rule the world. They wish to continue to rule the world on violence and repression. And we are all the victims of that violence and repression. We, as the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere, have been resisting this violence and this oppression for 500 years. We know that the black people have been resisting it for at least that long. And we know that the white people have had to endure it thousands of years. And now it's come full swing to this generation that we live in. Nuclearization of the world. You see, this cannot be, we cannot allow this to continue to go on. We cannot do it. You see, we cannot expect that the pro-nuclear oppressor, that other side, we cannot expect that they're going to change for us. They are going to become more brutal. They are going to become more repressive. We are power. But they have separated us from our spiritual connection to the earth. So people feel powerless. We look at the oppressor and we look at the enemy because they have the most guns and the most lies and the most money. People start to feel powerless. We are power. We are a natural part of the creation. We were put here on this sacred Mother Earth to serve a purpose. Somehow we are betraying our purpose here, and that is why we live in the confusion that we live in. They tell us, they want us to believe that we are powerless. We are a natural part of the earth. We are an extension of that natural energy which is spirit and which is power. Power. A blizzard is power. An earthquake is power. A tornado is power. These are all things of power that no oppressor, no machine age can put these things of power in a prison. No machine age can make these things of power submit to the machine age. That is natural power. And just as it takes millions and billions of elements to make a blizzard to happen, or to make the earthquake, to make the earth to move, then it's going to take millions and billions of us. We are power. We have that power. We have the potential for that power. I remember in the 60s and the 70s, and I heard all this thing about power to the people, and I never really understood, because everyone was saying power to the people, and they were talking about demonstrator, they were talking about vote, they were talking about dealing on the terms of the oppressor. Our power will come back to us. Our sense of balance will come back to us when we go back to the natural way of protecting and honoring the earth. If we have forgotten how to do it, and if we think that it looks overwhelming and we can never accomplish it, then all we have to do, and each of us as an individual can go out and we can find some spot on the earth that we could relate to. Feel that energy. Feel that power. That's where our safety will come. The earth will take care of us. We have to understand that the American corporate state will not take care of us. They do not care about us. Maximize their profit. That is where their whole life value is placed upon. Maximize the profit. They will turn us against each other to maximize the profit, because they have done it in the past. That is war. And they are waging it against us. They bribe Congress. They bribe your elected officials. They terrorize and intimidate your elected officials by getting the FBI to blackmail them. Those are acts of war. We will have to come to a time in our lifetime, and it will come in our lifetime, when we are going to have to deal with the fact that the enemy has taken over your government. The government is not your ally. The government will use you, chew you up, and spit you out. You think that we are wrong? You think that we are talking unrealistically? Then go look at your elders and see what has happened to your elders in your machine age society. See what kind of respect that they get. See what kind of a voice they are allowed into your society, what kind of input they have.
All right, so that was John Trudell, huge hero of mine. I encourage you guys to check him out. Hopefully you got the message there. In that, I just want to remind you guys again, go to theconsciousresistance.com, check out the Exit and Build 45-day Exit and Build Challenge. It continues this Friday at 11 a.m. And even if you haven't been caught up, the goal is to take this as often and whenever you can. But the point is to illustrate that there are other ways for us to quote unquote vote with our actions in our daily activities and our relationships and the way we live our lives. I know that many of you are busy, you're full-time working people, and I totally empathize and get with that. But I'm sorry, freedom's not going to be handed to us. You actually have to get free from these slavery systems that they're building around us, thanks to people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and people like Donald Trump, they're being used to help create this. Also, I want to invite you guys to check out some of our non-voting essays and videos, including this one from 2016, Voting is a Ritual Meant to Divide. And in this other essay I wrote in 2015, Non-Voting as a Strategy, Not Apathy. Actually, that one is a video there. So I've been talking about this for a decade now. And again, non-voting, not as apathy and saying give up, but as a strategy, not participating in those systems. And that doesn't mean you do nothing. It means voting other ways through this exit and build strategy that I'm talking about. So I hope you guys will check that out. Now let's talk about Dr. Scott Atlas. Before we wrap up for tonight, we're going to talk about my latest book I'm reading. Then we're going to play a music video as we wrap up, and I get ready for some dinner. Dr. Scott Atlas on censorship, academic freedom, and the pandemic. Now, I remember this guy. I think he was kind of mainstream. He worked for the Trump administration briefly, and he was an outspoken guy in terms of some of the COVID elements. I know there'll always be somebody who said, but Derrick, he didn't talk about this one element about COVID, so he must be a shill. I'm not saying this guy's perfect. I'm not even, trying to vouch for him. I'm just saying this is definitely an interesting story. So he is from Stanford University. He's one of the many doctors who are speaking up, but who was silenced, was criticized, and was attacked. And then he gets invited to speak at Stanford. And then he also did an interview with the Standford Review. So this one goes back to May. I'm going to share that one in just a moment. But this is just a couple of weeks ago, October 4th. This one hasn't been reported anywhere in the news that I've seen, really. I think he tweeted about it. But this is him giving a speech and talking about what happened, the censorship, academic freedom, and the pandemic. And I just want to share a little brief section of it. He says, lockdowns were instituted. They failed to stop the dying. They failed to stop the spread. That's the data. And then he lists a bunch of studies. And yes, lockdowns also inflicted massive damage on children and literally killed people. And then he shows more studies. And he said, unfortunately, my advice for targeted protection was rejected with rare exceptions like Florida. Targeted protection, that meant increasing the protection of the high-risk people because the lockdowns were not protecting them, and ending the lockdowns and school closures that were destroying the poor and our children, first advised in March 2020, then repeatedly for months, and then formally codified in October 2020 by J. Martin Sunetra in their Great Barrington Declaration. Remember, lockdowns are not caused by a virus. Human beings decided to do lockdowns. They own the results. Their lockdowns were implemented. Their policies failed and killed and destroyed millions. That's the facts. That's the data. This was a health policy problem. Virology is not health policy. Epidemiology is not health policy. These are only pieces of a larger, more complex puzzle. And again, I know the folks who understand the problems with virology will say, but Derrick, put it aside for a minute and just see the good that this guy is saying. While credentials are not the sole determinant of expertise, I was the only health policy scholar on the White House task force. The stunning fact is I was the only one focused on stopping the death, both the death and destruction from the virus and the death and destruction from the policy itself. That's health policy. As Hannah Arendt observed in Eichmann in Jerusalem, quote, what has come to light is neither nihilism nor cynicism, as one might have expected, but a quite extraordinary confusion over elementary questions of mortality. Censorship was done by the media companies themselves when it counted in 2020 before the Biden administration, when school closures and lockdowns were being implemented. You got that? Censorship was first done by the media companies themselves before the Biden administration. May 2020, YouTube bragged about its aggressive policies against misinformation. August 2020, Facebook shamelessly admits to Washington Post it's taken down 7 million posts. My interviews as an advisor to the president were pulled down on September 11th, 2020, Twitter blocking him on October 2020. You might think the public in a free society should know what the advisor to the president was saying. And he just goes on and he says, what was the response to truth at Stanford and other universities? Censorship, character assassination, intimidation, and censure. It was also nuanced, being told, stop writing X and write an apology for X. Colleagues, stop defending Scott. No more speaking at institutional events, and more. And understand clearly, when you censor health policy, it's not simply an abstract evil, a less than ideal environment for diverse views. People die, and people died from censorship of correct health policy. Why is censorship used? To shut someone up? Yes, but more importantly, to deceive the public, to stop others from hearing, to convince a naive public that there is, quote, consensus. But truth is not a team sport. Truth is not determined by consensus or by numbers of people who agree or by titles. It is discovered by debate, proven by critical analysis of evidence. Arguments are won by data and logic, not a personal attack or censoring others. That is why lockdowners at Stanford and elsewhere needed censorship and propaganda. They couldn't win on the data. They needed to delegitimize and demonize opposing views as highly dangerous to convince the public. And especially their lie, the straw man, that herd immunity strategy, that if you're against lockdowns, you are for, quote, letting it rip. I never advised letting it rip. It was never even mentioned, not once in the White House, and that is not targeted protection. And he says, we now have a frightening crisis of both competence and integrity. Lockdowners will never admit they were wrong on lockdowns, schools, masks, and vax mandates. And I and others were right because that would take integrity. But truth cannot be changed. And he goes on from here. I mean, this is a really powerful speech. I haven't been able to find any recording of it. I think that they wanted it to be private, but this was him speaking at this Stanford conference. Let me see, it says, It doesn't say here, but I found about it somewhere, and then I just started looking into it. I was like, wow, nobody's really talked about this. There's no video. And like I said, he did also an interview with Stanford. It seems like Stanford's slowly opening up, where he was being censored and, talking crap about him before. Now, as of May of this year, they do a little interview with him. They let him speak out about it and about his problems. He says here, early March 2020, in an interview with Stanford, the lockdowns were imposed. Those were the wrong policies because they were going to kill. They were going to kill by stopping other medical care and destroy people's livelihoods, but not stop the spread of the infection. And so it goes on. And he said not only was the policy incorrect, but it was also contrary to the best practices of pandemic management. Lockdowns are ineffective, and goes on and on. So, I mean, I think he's doing, again, doesn't mean you have to agree with every single point he's make. Maybe you don't think he goes far enough, but generally speaking, this dude seems to be like he's out there talking some truth. Again, I haven't researched him deeply. I've heard his name over the years. I just thought it was cool to see that these words are being said to the faces of other Stanford doctors and scientists. Maybe they ignored him because, like, as he mentioned, people aren't going to admit that they were wrong because that would take integrity. But the point is, the truth is out there. Everybody who knows what's up, I feel vindicated. I know that my reporting was right. I know that I was successfully dissecting the COVID lies, the numbers of the COVID lies in Texas and in Houston, where I'm at right now, because I was going to the press conferences, because I was following the Texas numbers, and I was looking at the ways they were changing it. I saw how they made announcements and had asterisks about, died with COVID versus from COVID, all the tricks that you guys read about and heard about. I was dissecting these things in Houston on the local level, holding protests, holding marches. Even in a place like Texas where things were relatively more free, we were pushing back and making the news and making our voice heard. When it really mattered, I stood up, and so did so many other people. I hope you did. I hope you didn't just stay at home and watch the show happen, because maybe that's an indication of how you're going to act in the future if something happens again. Hopefully not. But that is where we're going to start wrapping up, guys. We've covered tonight the Israelis infiltrating the American media. We talked about Elon Musk and the technocrats and their total information awareness efforts. We just talked about Dr. Scott Atlas. We talked about the Exit and Build Challenge and voting. And now we're going to talk about what book is Derrick reading this week. But first, I want to remind you guys that this program and all of my work is 100% viewer supported. If you are ever interested in supporting my work, you can go to theconsciousresistance.com/invest. Thank you guys so much to everybody who does support. You can sign up for monthly support on Buy Me a Coffee, on Substack. That's where most of my support comes from. I'm really grateful for that. And of course, I'm grateful to Ryan at Last American Vagabond, who helps me pay my bills by writing articles and continuing to bring you guys truth. But it is really, truly most of you viewers who do contribute, which is still just a small percentage for the thousands and thousands of viewers I have across all the platforms. I'd say less than 2% actually contribute, and I'm grateful for each of you who do so. You allow me to contribute, continue going on, and I'm grateful for that. I also want to mention at theconsciousresistance.com/invest, you can find my crypto addresses as well. And I do have a PO box where you can send cash, you can send checks, but really I don't want to take checks anymore. It's such a pain in the ass to cash checks without a bank. I have to bother family, and then that becomes a hassle. I have to find creative ways, or they're taxing me fees. So just send cash in the mail. I'm happier with cash. I think we're all happier with cash. But thank you guys, everybody who does support my efforts there and goes to theconsciousresistance.com to support this independent media program. Now, let me show you guys what I'm reading right now. It's Halloween season, so I picked up a Halloween book. This one is called The Troop. Hopefully you can see that. And it's by Nick Cutter, who is apparently a national best-selling author. I've never heard of him before. It was kind of an impulse buy, I'll be honest, but I love reading. And last week I was showing you guys my other books that I got recently about the secret societies and then the engineered cores of hell about the Vatican that I'm reading for the Pyramid of Power. That's some heavy stuff. So I need something a little bit lighter, like a scary book. So this one, here, we'll read the back. Once a year, Scoutmaster Tim Riggs leads a troop of boys into the Canadian wilderness for a weekend camping trip, a tradition as comforting and reliable as a good ghost story around a roaring bonfire. But when an unexpected intruder stumbles upon their campsite, shockingly thin, disturbingly pale, and voraciously hungry, Tim and the boys are exposed to something far more frightening than any tale of terror. The human carrier of a bioengineered nightmare, a horror that spreads faster than fear, a harrowing struggle for survival with no escape from the elements, the infected, or one another. So yeah, I'm only like 30 pages in. I've just been picking it up. I haven't really been reading it that seriously, but I'm hoping to finish it by Halloween. And yeah, I love books. I'm a bookaholic. So that's what I'm reading right now. It's not conspiracy related. It's not part of my deeper research. This is like before bed. I need to check out from all the craziness. And so I'm reading The Troop, if anybody is into that. Anybody out there reading Halloween books? I know I have some other book nerds out there who just like to read, and maybe you read seasonally. Does anybody else do that? You like in the mood, just like you watch a movie because it's the holiday season. I pick up a book when it's whenever it's related to the season. And yes, horror is relaxing reading compared with nonfiction. Exactly. Horror based on conspiracies about the Vatican and secret societies is my lighter fare for reading. And I also want to share an article that I am currently reading right now. I don't always do this, but this one is coming from the Rutherford Institute with John Whitehead, and I think he's a great writer. I wish he was more widely read than he is, because he is very insightful and on point. And he does like a kind of a weekly column, John Whitehead's commentary. This one's titled, "The Danger is Real. The Deep State's Plot to Destabilize the Nation is Working." And I'm not going to read it to you. I will link it, but it's at rutherford.org. That's RUTHERFORD. But I will read just this one paragraph here. He says, it's a three-ring circus. If the three-ring circus that is the looming presidential election proves anything, it is that the deep state's plot to destabilize the nation is working. The danger is real. Caught up in the heavily dramatized electoral showdown between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, Americans have become oblivious to the multitude of ways in which the government is goose-stepping all over our freedoms on a daily basis. Especially alarming is the extent to which both of these sides are allowing themselves to be gaslighted by both Trump and Harris about the critical issues of the day, selectively choosing to hear only what they want to hear when it casts the opposition in a negative light. And this is true whether you're talking about immigration and border control, healthcare, national security, the nation's endless wars, protections for free speech, or the militarization of the U.S. government. And he goes on from there, but it's a good one. I encourage you guys to check that out. You can find that at rutherford.org. As I said earlier, all of the show notes, everything I discussed tonight will be listed in the show notes at theconsciousresistance.com after I get done here. Now we're going to wrap up with a brand new music video from me. This is really exciting. I just put this out on Thursday. This is a song with my friend Prezence, who, if you've been tuned in the last couple of weeks, first of all, if you don't know, guys, we always end the show with a conscious artist. So if you have conscious music you want to send to me, Derrick at theconsciousresistance.com. If you make music, I try to play all kinds of different genres, even stuff that's not really my flavor, just because I know we got a lot of styles and preferences out there. But lately we've been playing some of my friends, and we played Prezence last week with his song PSYOP. And now on Thursday, we just released a brand new song called Taxation is Theft. For those who don't know, I perform music under the name 33. And 33 for me is transformation, it's healing, it's growth, it's awakening. I have a very personal story with it. I'm 39 now. So 6 years ago when I was 33, I had some different synchronicities and connections. It has nothing to do with me being a Freemason, because if you think that, you need to wake up and realize that they do not have power or monopoly over symbols and numbers. We get to retake them. It's about intention. It's about reclaiming things. They don't own the swastika. They don't own a pyramid or a triangle. They don't own specific numbers. It's all about your perspective and your intention. And for me, the music, well, listen to the message and you'll get it. And that's where we're going to wrap up tonight, guys. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I really, truly do appreciate you. I hope you tune in on Friday for the Exit and Build Challenge week 6 at 11 a.m. U.S. Central, 5 p.m. UK time. And until next week, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free, my friends. Have a good night.
We know that taxation, theft, and that government is slavery. We're paying no mind or money to false authority. Because we own the product of our labor and not even creativity. We won't be used for funding war and genocide and heavy weaponry. I won't be paying no money to fake authority. I won't fund no war, no genocide. I'ma keep my money in the community. Taxation or prosperity. We know that taxation, theft, and that government is slavery. And it's a modern form of slavery. fair. Taxation. From the day you were born, the system treats you like commodity. Taking their cut, every transaction, every quantity. Tax on what you earn, on what you buy, on what you sell, on what you own, on what you inherit. This shit is an atrocity. That don't even include the hidden tax, that of inflation. When they put money and take a luxe vacation, they counterfeit a couple stacks of more and spend it on war and correspondent media campaigning. Most people know that it's a wrong to rub their neighbor, but they think that it's a right. If the government wrote it down on paper, programmed to believe that slavery a racial issue, whites versus blacks. Either way they mask to get their revenue. Either way the subject is you, until you choose to own yourself and everything you do. You stop being subdued by the coercion of the few and break the bondage and acknowledge your inherent worth too.
Let me see if I can help you grasp what we're saying. Politicians take your money, more for the slaying. While our people suffer, the fat cats they ignore. They got money for wars, but can't feed the poor. Taxation is theft, and some call it extortion. Involuntary taxation, pro-lifers pay for abortion, while non-smokers pay for tobacco subsidies, and vegans funding animal inequalities. Steal from anti-war activists to pay for violence, and people wonder why the streets are filled with riots. I do not consent, and I will not relent until all my brothers and sisters repent. This is our time to reclaim our worth. Together we can have what we deserve. One by one, let's take our money from the banks. Let's see what they do when they got no money for tax.
We know that taxation, theft, and that government is slavery, and it's a modern form of slavery. We're paying no mind or money that false authority. No mind to authority. We own the product of our labor and our even creativity. Creativity, we will be used for funding for genocide and any weapon. Every weaponry, not taxation. And we already know that it is okay. Taxation, taxation is dead. Taxation, so why we paying the government to corrupt the crooks? Taxation, taxation. The banks of the river cut the flow of the currency. Now all of a sudden, for the first time in history, you can get your currency out of the banks and grow your own. Take ownership of your life force energy. Even back in the days of Rome, they used silver and gold to protect against the parasitic entities. So now I use ancient and modern technology, stacking precious metals and crypto. Crypto was my philosophy to thrive and prosper through to the coming apocalyptic collapse. Monero being used to the counter-economic attack. Living life like a certain Samuel Edward talking the third, inspired by the agora, the free markets absurd. The Ross all by still locked up for just creating one. Countless other men and women lives ruined or done. For heaven's sake, let us engage in voluntary transactions. No criminal and mental taking.
The sickest thing of all is we're playing a role. They ain't just taxing your wallet, they tax your soul. Some turn a blind eye to the crimes they fund. By taking from your wallets, they buy the guns, the bullets and the bombs. They keep raining down on the innocent children. Victims go in the ground. I'm praying for the day the atrocities will cease, whether it's the government man or the violent police. We're capable of more, but I know it seems difficult. Like a better humanity almost seems mythical. Together we have the power to rise above. Reject the hate and division, we can choose love. Let's build a foundation that stands the test of time. This means resist taxes, don't give them a dime. We can build a world based on morality and consent. The march to the new world order, we can prevent.
We know that taxation, theft, and that government is slavery, and it's a modern form of slavery. We're paying no mind or money that false authority. I pay them no mind or money, yeah. Product of our labor and our even creativity. Creativity, we need use for funding for genocide and heavy weaponry. Heavy weaponry, taxation. I won't be paying for no genocide in Gaza. Taxation. I won't be paying for a proxy war in the Ukraine. Taxation. Authority comes from myself, I'm within. Taxation. Taxation. Yeah. Here at the train station, acted like a full boom-boom-lot. Left my $3,000 guitar on the train. We're hoping someone can grab it before we have to catch this next bus. Boom!